Hello and welcome back to the RF1 Racing League. We're here with round 9 and now it's PC Division 1's turn in the spotlight. Tatum Matic won again last time out of Silverstone, taking his 5th win of the season and a 35-foot lead in the championship. This time out, of course, we are at Zandvoort, 14 turns. With that, there's 2 DRS zones, and once again, there is so much elevation change. A couple of exciting band turns around this track. We go to Fraser with the hot lap.
Starting a lap around Thunderbolt, you want to brake at around 25 meters for the first corner, shift down to second, then up to fourth on the exit. So you have a bit of extra rotation. Don't go too wide though. For the next set of corners, go to the left curb right here. Take a late apex for turn 3. For turn 4, go deep. Try not to look up, but also be really careful on throttle application coming out of the corner because you're likely to spin out. On the stretch, you can cut a bit of that right hand side curb. For turn 8, you want to stay as close to the inside as possible. Be really on the limit. For turn 9, you want to jinx a bit left and right, so you have a better entry angle. For turn 10, you want to really be kind of flowing through the corner. For turn 11, take a wide entry and a late apex, so you have a bit of extra speed coming through this DRS straight. For turn 12, you want to brake 5 meters before the curb on the left starts, really cut that curb on the inside. For turn 13, you want to have like a kind of double apex. Also, you want to be careful on the exit coming to the last 2 turns. You really try brake into that corner, so you have a nice exit coming out of the last turn. Stay to the inside as that gives you a couple of hundredths. And that's basically it for lap around Zandvoort.
Thank you, Fraser, for that hot lap. We have a field of 18 cars here at Zandvoort today. We're just a couple of minutes into the qualifying session, and VTEC Panda is the first one out on a lap. You can see the queue of cars on just after turn 12, getting their tyres in optimal condition for the start of this qualifying session. We have VTEC Panda coming across the first sector line very soon. He's going to set the first benchmark of this session. It is indeed a purple sector, which no one could have seen coming, and immediately it's been beaten by someone else. Oh well. Every car currently out on soft compound tyres right now, so no thoughts of the alternate strategy yet, and every car is out on track. As VTEC Panda comes to the second sector, another purple sector. Mounts the curb slightly there, might just keep it in the right direction. And now, around the final couple of corners, you throw it around these, with a banking helping you round, staying tight to the inside to get the shortest path to the finish line, and a 110.2 is the benchmark set by the AlphaTauri driver. Weltering sets the exact same time, and Silveraris is a 109.4. But wow, early on in the session, we already have to go to the tiebreaker of who set the time first. A couple of 109.9s coming through. Nordi, who was just driving Division 2, it's 110.2. Hamlin also setting a good time, and there are times being thrown up all across the board right now. Tatum Matic actually looks like he backed off on that first lap. And we have a spin there. Which car is that? Is that the car of Karim? That is the car of Karim. He's currently at a standstill, having to let his teammate through, and we'll have to limp that car back to the pits for a new front wing. Fraser, he showed that he had some hot lap skill, and there he is, a 109.0, the current fastest time in this session. I think our eyes go to K-Matic. He had a bit of trouble on his first lap, but he's going for it again. What is Delta to Fraser going to be here? He's down 2 tenths, but this will still be a solid banker lap to set on that first set of tyres. And just a bit of damage limitation after a spin on his first attempt. Almost loses the car again on that curb, managed to keep hold of it. Going around the final corner. How fast will it be? It will be a 109.1, and he sets himself in P2 already in this session. That was a fantastic show from K-Matic there. And as the first set of laps draw to a close and the cars pull back into the pits, we can see the order. 17 of our 18 cars have set lap times right now. The only missing car is Karim, who had that spin on the back straight. Already 9 drivers breaking into the 109s. And you'd have to expect some 108s being shown by the end of the session with how it's gone so far. And is that Weltering, who's already back out of the pits for a second attempt? It is very eager to improve that 110.2 that currently has him in just P16. For a brief couple of seconds, it was tied for the lead in this qualifying session, but everyone else managed to find more pace. And right now, he's the only car doing anything of note, because I believe Kuro is pulling back into the pits. Yet Nura is indeed pulling back to the pits, so it's just Weltering who's out on track right now. Lazo and, okay, a few more cars have decided to head back out, but I think we'll stay on board with Weltering here because he is a significant way above the rest of the field. He's going snail's pace here. Oh! And do I see droplets of rain here? I believe that might be rain falling in this qualifying session. And if it is, Weltering has to set a perfect lap right now because this track will just get worse and you won't have any more chances. It may already be too late, and Karim especially, who has shown strong pace early on in the past few races, maybe starting from the back of the grid unless he can put something together imminently. This has really thrown a spanner in the works for every one of these drivers. They may have already seen the best track, and Weltering has actually gone 7/10 down and now invalidated. I really do think that this track is just not going to be fast enough to improve. And these last 10 minutes may be spent sitting in the garages, hoping that the weather disappears at some point. We're on board with Lazo. Let's see if he can improve. He's currently 9/10 back from Fraser. Coming through the end of the first sector is split. He's down by half a tenth. He has gone green. Half a second, I should say. He has done green, so maybe he's will get an improvement, but it's now or never for all of these drivers. If they can't do any better than this with very light rain, it will only get worse. So many cars currently on flying laps. Lazo has actually held in the second sector there, so may be able to improve, and there may still be a couple more minutes to set improvements if you can hold on to the car. As he rounds the final corner and comes across the line, what will it be? It will be a 109.6, which is enough for P5 right now. But there are plenty of cars behind on second runs who may be able to improve before the rain gets too heavy. We'll have to see what the field can do. We have Penachero here, across the line and does not improve. Fraser has started to pull into the pits, cannot find an improvement, and it looks like a lot of cars may be opting for that. Keita Mattis is on a flying lap, was less than a tenth down in the first sector, so may be the last one with an opportunity to make an improvement, but that car does not look too stable. We'll see if he can hold on to it. He comes across the second sector line. Can he find an improvement? No, he cannot. He's 4/10 down, and I think the rain is just too heavy to do anything. He has invalidated this lap as well. And so that may be the qualifying session drawn to a close. There are still 8.5 minutes left, and perhaps some of the cars further down the order will be able to find an improvement, but I don't feel too confident about it. K-Automatic does opt to pull into the pits. We just have a few cars left on track, none of whom are going particularly fast. And VTech has called it. So with 8 minutes to go in the session, we may have our grid order for this race. Tom JB has gone a second off the pace in that opening set, so I really just do not see any improvements coming out here. And his Williams teammate of Fraser, with that banter lap of a 109.0, maybe on pole position. Fraser has come out again to try and improve, but perhaps he's just covering if it takes any drivers behind up to make the same call and the track does improve. I'm sure he's not expecting there to be an improvement and maybe try to find his way in difficult conditions that may be seen in the race later on. As we saw from the Div 2 race, there was a lot of wet weather running in that session as well. But it's hard to imagine anyone coming up with this here. Fraser is rounding the final corner to try and set a lap. Is he able to do anything? We have MJ Povey here crossing the line, but cannot set a time by the look of things. Fraser is starting a lap, and we'll go on board to see what happens. Case Matthews actually switched to intermediate tyres. I can't imagine he's planning to come out on those tyres. As we have a yellow flag in sector 3, which has resolved itself. And indeed, Case Matthews is not planning to do anything with that. He has opted to retire from the session. Fraser coming across the first sector line. Can he find any improvement? He's half a second down. I don't see any improvements happening here as the race just continuing to get heavier and heavier. And Fraser, although he's running so slowly right now, does look to have pole position in the bag here. A 109.0, the only time he was able to set in the dry, and it's enough. Tatematic behind had to set a 109.1 on his second attempt. An excellent recovery to end up on the front row, but the tyres just not quite as fresh as they needed to be. Behind that, Silverado 27, Barney, Lazo, Timalele, Dodd, Pinachero, Rage, and Light $100 are all likely to start the race on those soft compound tyres. And the 9 cars behind, Nordy, Tom JB, Hamlin, Euro, VTEC Panda, Weltering, Skytube, MJ Povey, who did manage to set a lap there, and Karim, who has not set a lap, they will have a free choice of tyre for this race. We will just have a little ride on board with Lazo and have a look at how bad these conditions are looking, because it is nasty out there. You'd have to imagine he wants to pull into the pits and just get into the warmth of the garage. And there we go. We just have Timalele and Skytube on the track right now. The rest of the cars are calling it a day for qualifying. And there are unlikely to be any improvements from the drivers. Skytube actually does not have the best banker lap set, so we may be hoping, but even then, there is just too much rain on the track to make any meaningful inroads towards 16 cars ahead, and so he may be starting on the 9th row of the grid. And I think he knows that he's pulling into the pits. Timalele has pulled into the pits, and that will likely draw this session to a close. And it looks like we are now joined by Quimbulus. How are you doing, Quimbulus?
I am here indeed, not too bad after a interesting race at Zandvoort, having to deal with the single line flying. I see there's a bit of rain out on the track, so I'm sure that's put a bit of a wrinkle into the qualifying for the PC Div 1 race. We stayed dry in Xbox, though.
It absolutely has set a wrinkle on the session. Every car managed out for a banter lap, but not everyone had success. Tatematic Spur on his first attempt managed to get P2 on the second attempt. Karim lost a front wing, was not able to set another time, and will be starting from P19 on the grid.
He's definitely going to have a lot of ground to make up around a track that's very, very difficult to overtake around. So he might be looking at an alternate strategy as a way to make places as opposed to having to do it all on track.
Absolutely. Of course, starting outside the top 10, he will have a free choice of tyres, so possibly looking onto the mediums to try and overcut the field on a medium soft, perhaps.
It's
We have to
definitely a
see.
possibility. I think the ideal strategy is still the soft onto hard if the race stays dry. I don't know about the weather that you guys are having for the actual race, but the medium, you can gain some time running long on that if you are being forced onto it. But the ideal strategy is probably still going to be a one stop soft onto hard, maybe stretching the mediums to the end. But the track asks a whole lot of that front left tire and really puts it into the puncture territory, even on the hard tires running a normal stop strategy.
Absolutely. Although, of course, if you are able to start with fresh medium tyres, you may be able to take the brunt of the wear of the high fuel load on those tyres, and then, of course, with an interrupted qualifying session, you may have a fresh set of softs to finish the race off on low fuel. And so, if you need to make up places, it may be worth the risk. And we are also joined for this race by Jock James.
Yeah, welcome again, a second time today.
Absolutely. And our cars start to round on the formation lap. And it is looking absolutely beautiful in the Netherlands today. I can't imagine there's any threat of rain for the end of this race, although it's possible. Definitely not in the early stages, so we'll have to see what people's planned tyre strategies are.
But it already looks nicer than like an hour ago here in Zandvoort.
Absolutely, Division 2 was cursed with plenty of rain, whereas Division 1 gets the most beautiful weather you could ever ask for.
Yeah, in Xbox,
Looking-
we had an overcast qualifying session. Sunny start to the race like we see here. The clouds started to come in midway through, but it ended up staying dry the rest of the way. So might look to see the light levels and the track temperatures changing up and down over it. And of course, if the track temperature stays up around where it is, early stint soft runners are going to have to be looking after the temperature of that front left tire.
Fraser found a little bit of grass there, tried to get heat into the tyres, and almost lost the car. Managed to keep hold of it though. Now, as we look at the tyre strategies, the top 12 runners who have decided to stay on soft compound tyres, the top 10 were of course forced into that, but 11th and 12th also making the call. The 6 cars behind have gone for mediums, and as we mentioned earlier, Karim has chosen a risky strategy, has gone for the hard, possibly try to extend for a late race safety car for a cheap stop. We shall see as the cars start to form up on the grid for the start of this Dutch Grand Prix.
Yeah, he'll definitely be able to go very deep on those hard compounded tires, and even running them in the second stint, they tend to get faster and faster as the fuel load gets lighter and lighter. It really doesn't affect the degradation too much until you're in the puncture territory on those hard compounds. They're a very good race tire.
Absolutely, and the cars are lined up and the lights are on. We have 5 red lights at the circuit Zandvoort. And we are off. It looks like it's quite a good start for Fraser there. But mind you to say, just ahead of Tater but Tater is looking down the inside into turn 1. They keep it clean and Fraser holds on to the position. Further down the field, we have a few positions changing hands. MJ Povey looks like he's made a very good run in the opening couple of corners at the back. But the cars in the top 10 looking a little bit in lockstep as we round these corners.
Yeah, and Kareem's showing about 4 seconds off the back. Into turn 1, he was going around the outside 3 wide. It looks like he may have just gotten run off the track, and with the amount of time that he's dropping delta-wise, he may have already picked up some wing damage, so really compromising that hard tire strategy.
If he asks himself if damage is on, he'll find out pretty soon. Or he found out already.
He has already found out.
Already
There is
found out.
a significant chunk of that, the left side of that front wing completely missing, and when you're starting at the back, it can be tempting to try and gain places there, but you have to... Oh! And there is contact further down the order. The Haas of, I believe, is Nordi running into the back of Neuro. Looking like he managed to escape without any damage, but definitely looking at a bit of a risky move in that third sector. as Timolele is forced to pit very early on. I assume picked up some front wing damage, as has Karim, and yes, there is a front wing change going on that Alfa Romeo, and it's not the way that the Division 3 driver would have wanted to start the second race that he's run around Zandvoort this weekend. Further down the order, the two Red Bulls of MJ Povia and Weltering are battling for 14th position. Weltering just 4 or 5 tenths behind. Was driving the Division 2 race not too long ago. And he's looking to make his mark in Division 1. But he's got a long way to go if he wants to do that.
Yeah, and we'll keep an eye on what MJ Povey does. He's fresh off winning the Xbox division race and jumping straight into this PC division, so we'll see what kind of pace he's able to have. He qualified up the order, so was on the soft tires in the Xbox race, but now working the other strategy on the mediums this time around.
And we have so many drivers who are just going back to back here. We have 4 drivers who were just participating in the PC Division 2 race. 2 of them are Division 2 drivers. 2 of them, Hamlin and Timolele in the Alfa Romeos, are actually Division 3 drivers, and we're driving in all 3 races this weekend for the PC. And at the front of the field, the top 5 have remained unchanged in that start. The 3 cars behind only gaining a place due to Timolele's early pit stop. And so, despite some excitement in the opening few corners, it looks like Zandvoort's reputation of being a tricky overtaking track are holding true in the early stages of this race. DRS has of course been activated, and we will see it on this back straight on this lap. But every car is in a massive train, so there may not be too many gains to be had.
Yeah, and only 2 DRS zones around this track. You see the short run down this small back straight, and of course the long pit straight. Not a ton of overtaking opportunity in that first DRS zone unless you get an absolutely mega launch off of that long left-hander, but really there to help keep you in contact to set up a move down the long front straight.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw that in the Division 2 race, although it didn't stop John Lemon from making an attempt. The first time round didn't quite work out, but he managed to make a stick on the final lap to take P7 in that race. Yeah, you can see coming down the start-finish straight, a lot of cars looking for moves, but every car has DRS in this pack, so there's not much to be done. And we snaked through the 4th of 36 laps around this circuit.
Yeah, one of the shorter laps on the calendar, race laps being in the minute 12, minute 13 kind of range. Really only the quicker laps you see are around a place like Austria, but unlike Austria, not some big long straights and heavy braking zones. It's kind of processional, so qualifying was very important, and having that rain impacting qualifying could really affect the drivers that have very good race pace, but qualifying, you know, if you stay in front, you really have to have a huge time delta to make an overtake around this track.
Absolutely, and I think we have to look towards the battle at the front here. Katie Mack has checked out from the cars behind. As we look at the replay of the start, a couple of cars running into the wall on that start-finish straight. That's not what you want to see. That was Karim by the look of things. And Katie Matic sets a fastest lap with a run on that straight, and has run around the outside of Fraser here and taken the lead of this race. What a fantastic move from the Clown driver, just held onto him through that DRS zone on the back straight, and then got a monster run through the final corner and made the move stick, and now they're hoping to check out from this race.
Yeah, we'll see what the pace delta is between Fraser and Kato Matic. I'm sure that Kato has taken a bit more out of his tires, having followed Fraser so closely. But we'll see if he's able to extend that gap, or if Fraser is going to be able to battle back here.
He will have DRS to stay in touch, and the question is whether he can make a run for a counter-attack on that start-finish straight again and retake the lead. But Case Mash is a 5-time race winner in this division already this season, and that move on the previous lap shows you why. He just has a killer instinct, and Fraser, unable to set the power down very smoothly, almost loses the car, holds onto it, but has fallen outside a second. And that may be enough of a window for Kate Matic to check out of this race. I'm sure
All you
Fraser
need is a little bit of space for Kato, and then he can really start to stretch his legs. Once he seems to get outside of that 1 second of the car behind him, it seems to grow by a half a second every single lap. So it does look like Fraser is back inside of that 1 second mark, but they have checked out about 2.5 seconds from Barney in the final podium position. So we'll see if this front group is going to DRS each other and pull away from the pack.
absolutely, but really got to keep in mind is that Fraser might be having to catch up by using all of that ERS, and if Kato Mack can conserve while Fraser's having to burn it to stay on the back, that will let Kato Mack lunge past just a little bit later. We look further down the field, and there is contact between the two Red Bulls. MJ Povey and Weltering running nose to tail and making contact, beating both of them round. MJ Povey also
Yeah,
doing
he
a little bit of a
reset it.
cheaty reset,
Yeah,
which
he reset it on track.
that'll be a penalty.
Yeah, that's a no-no.
Yeah, and that is a very painful moment for the Red Bull team here. It's not what they want to see in this, especially considering the real life team has the only Dutch driver on the grid.
I think they were maybe confused because I think like 100, he spun in front of them, and they might try to avoid crashing into him.
Possibly, that is entirely possible, but it has cost them. They are both now pulled into the pits. Weltering would have had to double stack and instead just opts to retire from this race. And that is a nightmare for the Red Bull team. If you look further up the field, Rage has fallen a little off the back of the pack, and Tom JB is now hunting. In the top right, you can see the battle between Fraser and Kato Mack is still ongoing. The Williams managing to hold on to DRS and looking to just sit in this window for the time being.
Yeah, and they've grown that gap to Barney behind up to 3.5 seconds now. So over the last 2 laps, have picked up another second on the pack. Barney kind of running in clear air though now. So is he going to be able to hopefully conserve that front set of soft tires and be able to use a little bit more, maybe get an extra lap out of them, but the undercut is fairly powerful around here, and getting onto those hard compound tires to go to the end is probably the ideal strategy. But you mentioned the use of the ERS earlier, and Zandvoort here with very few really heavy braking zones makes it very tough to recharge that electrical energy. A lot of your speed is scrubbed off through the high-speed cornering, so when you use your electrical deployment, you got to really be sure that you're using it in the right spot, because it can take several laps to build up enough charge to mount another attack.
And that's definitely something that Fraser will have to keep in mind as he tries to make this move stick on Kato Mack. He's having to burn it, whether it's just to stay in range of the pace of Kato in front, or whether it's trying to make a move stick to get ahead. He's having to use a lot of ERS there, and he's gonna run out at some point.
Rage has gone around right after we saw the a bit of a replay of the incident with like $100 and both of the Red Bulls. It did look like the Ferrari lost it, and both Red Bulls tried to avoid to the same part of the track and all got caught up together in one spot. But Rage has dropped down the order now. It looks like he may have picked up a little bit of front wing damage as well, as it looks like Pinocchero has actually gone past Dog on the timing stands there, battling side by side into turn 1 there. Coming out, looks like Pinochero's got that job done.
What a fantastic move there from the Renault driver. Now, we are seeing a fair amount of overtaking here if you know where to look for it. Rage having to pull into the pits for a front wing, pick up a penalty as well, and retiring for good measure. It's been a horrid race for Red Bull. It's a horrid race for Ferrari as well.
And according to
Meanwhile-
Weltering, MJ braked even though Like was ghosted. That's why Weltering hit him, apparently.
Ooh. I mean, that's tough, but I think you also have to try and make an effort to avoid ghosted cars, because you never know when they'll ghost in this game. There was a bit of a moment there for Tom JB coming out of that corner. VTEC Panda is right on the back of him on this DRS straight. Has the horror compound tyre and cannot make the move stick, but he's so close and may be looking to make the move on the start finish straight. SkyTube just about within a second, looking to try and latch on to join the battle as well. As at the front, Kato Mack and Fraser are still just in lockstep. Fraser on the back of the McLaren, but not able to make a move. And there we go. I mean, Fraser's gained 2/10 in the last lap. Not so much in the second sector, but in that first and third sector, gaining a lot of time. Possibly K-Matic had to burn a lot of tyres to make the move earlier on in the stint, and is now having to pay for it.
Absolutely.
But
It's not surprising to see him losing time to the lead car in that second sector, as the second sector is made up of those very quick, sweeping right and left-hand corners. So dirty air, not as impactful in the game as it is in real life, but still has an impact. So it's really hard to follow another car closely. You really need that downforce.
absolutely, and we saw Hamlin pull into the pits for hard compound tyres. I think that's the first scheduled pit stop of the race, possibly. As we see Fraser gaining onto K-Matic, can he make the move going into turn 1? Not quite. He's right on the battery and may still be looking to make it through this second banked corner, but it doesn't look particularly likely. He's gonna have to wait another lap.
But they're pulling away from Barney, almost 5 seconds now.
Oh, absolutely. But of course, we are starting to get towards pit stop stage, as on the top right, VTech Panda pulling down the inside of Tom JB, going into turn 1. That was a fantastic move from the AlphaTauri, and it looks like he's made it happen. And SkyTube now is going to be, oh no!
Oh, they touch.
And Tom JB went a little too deep on VTech, almost spun him around, but VTech holds on. Tom JB possibly a wind damage, and SkyTube is going to try and eat him up after that incident, but cannot find his way past. That car is just blocking up the entirety of this thin track. It looks like Tom JB has actually managed to escape wind damage, and Karim has retired, and we have a safety car. Oh, Karim has hit the wall going through that second sector, and it has
into the
brought the
pits
safety
now.
car out. That is excellent timing for the lead group pulling into the pits. Looks like Kato has gone to hard compound tyres. We'll see what the cars behind make of. The hards are the safe choice, but with the lower pressure laps coming up here, the mediums might be able to extend, but it's definitely a risky call to make. You'll definitely have a better launch coming out of the safety car period, as everyone is piling into the pits on the soft compound tyres, and some of the medium runners are calling it there for that stint. We'll see what
taking
decisions they make.
the cheap pit stop is probably the good move. It looks like just about everybody going onto that hard compounded tire. Track position is going to be pretty key here. It looks like Neuro has stayed out and Povey has stayed out, although he made an early pit stop. Or no, rather, Povey has made another
just
pit
pulled
stop,
into
so
the
he
pits.
just pulled in.
So
it
the
looks like
entire
Neuro,
field,
the only one to stay out on his starting compounded tires there. He's really only going to be able to push another 4 or 5 laps on those mediums at race pace before he has to dive in for another stop.
Absolutely, and here we see a replay of that earlier incident between the two Red Bulls. And yeah, it looks like when Hildor spun round, MJ tried to take evasive action, and Weldon just wasn't expecting it. The two cars come together, and that is definitely unfortunate. And then we saw the AlphaTauri spun round in the wall to bring out this safety car, which neutralizes the entirety of these battles and bunches the cars back up.
Could you
It's always
imagine?
tough to make the call on a ghosted car whether to commit and drive through it or to check up and see if it's going to unghost itself. Sometimes the game does some weird things, so it's often better to err on the side of caution and not have that car unghost right in front of you.
Yeah, and we have Kareem joining us in the Twitch chat. Not very happy about how that race ended for him. But of course, it has brought out a safety car, which could cause a lot of drama on the restart. We have Neuro, who's on old medium tyres, will have to pit soon. I think he's really lost out by not choosing to take the free pit stop here. And the rest of the field, pretty much even on fresh hards.
Can you imagine Neuro trying to go for soft after that? Because otherwise I would be really wondering why he stays out on mediums.
It's tough. personally, at least in my testing leading up to this race, I was only ever really to take a set of starting mediums to about lap 16 or 17. They tended to get pretty beat up. A hard tire was the better race tire, and trying to get onto a set of softs to stretch them that far to the end of the race, I just don't think is possible.
Yeah, I mean, you have 2 or 3 laps with neutralized running here, so possibly looking for a lap 20 pit, but then you've got to stretch 16 laps on the soft compound tires to end, and I don't really see it as being particularly viable.
You can do that. I did it in practice, but you don't really have any pace on them in lap 15 or 16 then. It's
Yeah.
just surviving.
Oh wow, that is an early safety car. It's coming in at the end of this lap. I was not expecting that at all, and we are about to go green at Zandvoort. K-Matic bunching the field up, letting safety car get away ahead. Still bunching the field up. When's he doing a bolt? He's gone. And there we go. As he crosses the line, we go green again at Zandvoort. Are there any moves happening down the field? It looks like that happened so close to line that only Dodd was able to make a move around Penachero on that restart. And it is so close in this pack. Oh, Barney's gone round.
They touched.
Dodd and Barney made contact, and Barney has gone round, and it's now at the back of the field. It's so unfortunate for the Haas driver. But the rest of the field looks like there's not been many changes, and they're just in a bit of a procession on this restart. Although, of course, they're all so close that every car will be looking for a mistake from the guy ahead. And the front floor have actually broken away by a solid second and a half in that opening half lap. I'm
Yeah,
sure
a little
Kate's
fight between Dog and Pinachero, and then obviously with Barney getting involved has allowed that gap to open up pretty quickly.
Absolutely, and you have to wonder, with K-Matic having so much trouble breaking away from Fraser in the opening stages of that race, will he use these 2 laps without DRS to try and make that second gap and run off into the sunset here? Because there will be no more pit stops for those leading cars, and I think he'd be hoping he can make it work. As Hamlin, I believe, has gone into the gravel on the outside of the final turn, has picked up a penalty for it. That seemed especially harsh, to give 10 seconds for essentially being beached on the outside of the final corner. But alas, we continue racing. The front door now broken away a 2-second gap to Dodd behind, and the rest of the pack. We have Tim Alele trying to make his way past Tom JB. He's made the move cleanly.
It seems like Doc could have front wing damage after the touch with Barney.
I'm not seeing any damage here, although it's possible there's a bit of light damage that's causing a loss of pace. It could just be that he's lost a bit of confidence after that incident. He's not really able to push up to the back of the cars ahead. Meanwhile, K-Matic is rounding the final corner, and his gap to Fraser, 1.3 seconds. So DRS will be enabled when he crosses the line, but Fraser will not have any.
Yeah, and those couple of laps coming out of the safety car was a good time for Kato to really use all of that electrical deployment. You recharge quite a bit of it under the safety car, so while this track is hard to charge that battery back up, he got a lot of that battery filled up and likely used that to try and gap Fraser before that DRS became available again. But it looks like $100 is out of the session now. He's retired.
Yeah, it looks like that was a retire in the pits. So he's had a couple of incidents throughout the early stage of this race and has called it a day. And Fraser, and has been pushing to try and stay within the second tier, but it looks like he's been using up so much of that ERS, and it's all been for nothing. He's not really got the pace, so he may be starting to worry about Neuro behind, or possibly Silver Arrow if Neuro doesn't have the pace on those old medium tyres.
Hamlin also retired from the race.
Yeah, and they're dropping like flies here, by the look of things.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on Silver Arrow's delta to Neuro. At 15 laps in, those medium tires are definitely losing a lot of grip. And as I say, it's Silver Arrow going by around the outside there. and is able to make that move stick into turn 1 there. So looks like those medium compounds are starting to go away from Neuro and might be regretting staying out during that safety car period.
Yeah, I suppose we don't measure it by delta, but you measure it by how many millimeters ahead the car is. And Silva are already looking to break away from Neuro here, and you've got to wonder when that McLaren will decide to pit for new tyres and what tyres they will be.
Yeah, and it is quite packed up behind him there, so there's not really a lot of clear air for him to pit into, although the gapping all the way down to P13 from where Neuro is, he should come out behind the whole group if he comes into the pit lanes now.
Yeah, I think he just made the wrong call at the safety car there, opting to stay out on those tyres when there wasn't really the strategic reason to. And now the rest of the field is able to run to the end of the race on these hard compound tyres, and he isn't. We actually have Barney who's pulled into the pits. I assume for a new front wing and has gone to the mediums. Those will last to the end of the race, with just 18 laps to go. Here we have SkyTube looking up the inside of VTEC Panda, but VTEC defends the inside line. SkyTube can't make anything happen. He's still right on the back of the car ahead, coming through this opening sequence, but isn't quite close enough to make a move. And we'll have to sit behind until the back DRS zone.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of lockups into that heavily banked hairpin, and really kind of want to avoid that as it's the front left that is typically going to lock up, and that's the one you got to worry about tire temperature in. But trying to push the pace and get as late on the brakes as the track kind of falls away from you on the inside is an easy way to lock up that front left tire. But it seems like everybody's been maintaining decent pace on it, so it doesn't seem to be hurting them too bad. They might be able to cool the tire enough before they hit that really quick right-hander over the top of the hill of turn 7.
Absolutely. As Lazo has latched right onto the back of Penachero here, going down the back straight, is just 3/10 back as they round the final couple of corners. And on the start-finish straight, he might try and make a move, but unfortunately, Penachero does have DRS on Dodd ahead, so it might not be enough. We'll see if any moves can be made here. And it looks like the 3 cars will have to remain in the order they are. Penachero looks around the outside of Dodd, can't make a move stick, and there's really no battle to have there.
It's the curse of the DRS train. If you get into a long line of cars that all have DRS, it effectively kind of neutralizes it all, so nobody's able to really make too many overtakes.
Absolutely. I mean, Lazo had a great run through the second sector, but with Penachero just able to latch onto the back of Dodd, there's not really much to have there, as these 3 cars are actually battling very closely as they come onto the back straight. Penachero trying up the inside of Dodd, can't make it work, and now Lazo has the run. He'll have the outside line coming into this corner. Dodd ahead might interfere a little bit, and Penachero is able to take the position back with that assistance from Dodd.
A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact as they came into that little chicane there. Track tightens up a ton. Very hard to get 2 cars through there without any kind of contact, but looks like they've avoided any damage and they've stayed in their running order, and well, they're back in the DRS train as well, as they've got VTEC Panda now starting to close up on that group.
Penachero might have been looking for a move up the inside of Dodd there to make another position, but it wasn't quite enough. He's still got settled for the second car in the train, better than being the third of Lazo behind, but he's still sniffing right and left to see if there's any space for a move.
Yeah, Penachero seems to be showing really good pace and is looking to find an opportunity to free himself from Dog. He should be able to open up a bit of a gap if he's able to get in front of Dog there. It's definitely not the DRS that's keeping him in contact. He is closing up very closely through the second sector here, and is just maybe carrying a little bit more downforce than what Dog is, and that's costing him a tiny bit of straight line speed down that front straight to make that move stick.
And you can see him looking at alternate lines at every corner. And he looked on the inside, can't make it work, ends up cutting the corner, doesn't make the move. And that was definitely ambitious from Penachero there. Lazo's right behind and might have a run here, but Penachero of course will have DRS. And it's a train of 5 cars now. More, actually. I can't even count how many are there. But we have Lazo looking at the inside of Penachero, can't make it happen. Looks up the inside again. Still not quite enough, and these cars cannot find anything in this now 7-car train, I believe.
Yeah, it's a 7-car train, and there's only 14 cars left running, so you're seeing literally half the field all in one train. But ooh, Tom JB is out. It looks like there was a little contact on the field there. He may have gotten himself into a wall.
And there's
Safety car is
another
out,
safety car.
another one, and that is going to save Neuro's race, I'd say here.
Absolutely. I mean, it's still not ideal for Nero, but he will be able to use this chance to pit for fresh soft compound
Yeah.
tyres.
And he just
That
comes
should be able to
around.
make it to the end. And Barney's picked up a penalty actually for speeding the safety car as he tries to pit. It's unfortunate. So the race is neutralised once again. Here's the question: as the leaders round the final corner, do you think the leaders will pit for fresh soft compound tyres, or will they stay out on the hards? Kate Matt has opted to stay out, as has Fraser. But we may see cars behind take the alternate strategy and get some fresh tyres.
If you're already out in front, it's definitely a good idea to stay out. Track position is way more important than a tire differential around this track.
And it looks like most of the cars were agreeing. Of course, Nura had to pit. The only other car in that sort of front group that decides to pit is Timalele. We have Nordy behind as well, who's looking to go on to soft compound tyres, but most cars opting to stay out. The front 9 on aging hards. And the ones at the back of that train might have to check their mirrors for Nuro and Timalele, who will be charging at them. They have pace and they have soft compound tyres.
And we just saw what that different that can be, with John Lemon charging up the field in Division 2.
Let's hope that those two cars don't try and make any moves at the inside of any tight corners, because that doesn't always go too well. I mean, we saw, was it Panachero try it there against Dog?
Yeah, he tried to go up the inside of that chicane. It gave him quite the jump over the curbing there. So he definitely picked up a track limits warning there. Lucky to not pick up any kind of penalty.
Or damage.
But yeah, definitely. Or damage, yeah, floor damage. Luckily for him, not modeled.
So we had a very similar moment with John Lemon in the Division 2 race, and once again, managing to escape without much punishment somehow. So that is a
He spun out the safety car as far as I saw that.
Kotei Matic has spun on a safety car, has had to pull into the pits for a new front wing. And that is a disaster for our race leader.
But maybe you can have a replay. Because I think he spun. I think he spun.
I'll check the race director to see if there's any mention of what happened there.
If he pulled a George Russell on us.
K-Matic has pit for fresh tyres, but not a new front wing. That was a purely strategic choice by the look of things. And I think after possibly having a spin on the safety car and falling back, he needed to roll the dice a little bit, as we see in this replay.
I think it was coming out of T13 under the safety car.
That is so unfortunate for our championship leader and former race leader, K-Matic. I'm hearing that there was a spin in sector 3, and after that and falling down the order, he's just chosen to get new tyres, possibly overheating the hards and wanting to have a bit more fight at the end of this race. But he's got a lot of work to do now, down in P12 and out of the points. And we saw a very short safety car last time out. Will it be the same again? Fraser is currently leading the pack. And it looks like the safety car light has remained on. And we'll be going for another circuit under full course caution.
Yeah, it looks like Barney was still a ways off of being caught back up to the pack. So he is still about 11 seconds back. The first safety car of the field was pretty well bunched early on. So it looks like one more lap to get him back on the end of the train. And they should be releasing him, I would hazard a guess, this time around.
Yeah, I'd have to make the same guess. Of course, it's not required for the field to be bunched up before a safety car restart, although I think in Formula 1 season we've seen that it's definitely more than desired for Michael Massey and the other race directors. So not surprised to see that we have the same situation here. The field is now completely bunched up, coming through sector 1, and so surely we will have 12 green flag laps at the end of this race. And what are you expecting to see from this, Willis?
Well, Fraser's had very good pace this whole race, and now Kato is dropped off from in front of him. Silver Arrow has run well, but has been dropping back pace-wise. I still think the fight between Dog, Pinachero, and Lazo likely going to continue to the end of the race, but this time that set of 3 cars will be battling for the final podium position. Keep an eye out, though, for Neuro Kato-Matic to try and make some moves on those soft tires, but really going to have to do it without being overly aggressive and catching damage, because there's very few overtaking opportunities, even with a tire advantage that they have.
Absolutely, and that is confirmation from the race stewards that the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, and as it takes off, Fraser bunches up the field and tries to find the perfect time to strike to make a gap to Silver Arrow on this restart. We saw on the first one, Kato-Matic run all the way onto the start-finish straight before going, but that was because he had to give plenty of time for the safety car to make distance. Fraser might go a little bit earlier here. He's still bunching the field up. And there we go. He's finally made the decision to go. And it looks like he's just about managed to hold off Silver Arrow. And the patch behind, again, it's a short start-finish straight, and no one can really make many moves.
Oh, we have
Lazo and
contact.
Pinachero have come together sideways.
And
His
Lazo's
Lazo,
out.
and he's gone
Oh
around now.
no! That's disaster for
Kato
those.
and Neuro flipping their way through the field. Kato swinging around the outside of his teammate, now diving up the inside of MJ Povey, really putting that extra grip of those soft tires to work, really making a move early in the stint.
Kato's moved up 7 places on that safety car restart. And granted, there were a couple of cars that spun out, but that is still astonishing from our championship leader on a track that's so difficult to overtake on. He's gained 7 places. Fraser's had a moment there on the curb, and he's now being doubled up by Silver Arrow. They're side by side going down the back straight. Silver Arrow has the outside line, which moves to the inside, and it looks like he's able to keep the position and the race lead. Fraser just hit the curb, lost the rear end a little bit, and it gave Silver Arrow the window.
And Fraser might thought he won't see Kato again this race, but there he is again. Pretty close.
Yeah, he will have seen him pop up in the top left and go, hang on, how's that happened? And here he is now flying up the inside of Skytube up into P4, and he could be on for a podium, if not the race win here.
And Neuro making the move around the outside of MJ Povey as he now switches it back to the inside of that heavily banked left-hander, trying to get the power down and gets that job done as they start heading up the hill.
This is absolutely astonishing from the 2 McLarens. We were doubting Nero's strategy early, but the safety car did save him and give him a chance to fight this one. And he and Kato-Matic have been fighting this expertly at the start of this final stint. And now Kato-Matic trying to get past Dog for this final podium space. He's only 2/10 back coming down this straight. He's going to look around the outside of this corner. Can he make it work? No, Dog cuts him off there, I'd say. That was very close. Kato-Matic doing well to avoid contact, and now will be able to hold on and try and make the move into turn 1 instead.
But Dog changed his braking line there. Not the gentleman way of driving.
Yeah, I'm definitely not impressed by that. We actually do not have DRS yet. It's just been enabled, but that will not count here. But still, Kato looking up the inside. Dodd try to go defensive and just about holding the outside line. There's a fantastic race in here.
Dog is really pushing hard to stay in front of Kato. You see he's missing some apexes, missing some braking points, really trying to hustle that car to keep that faster soft compound behind him. But they are closing up now. Neuro catching this whole little train. So the alternating Racing Points and McLarens now going to battle it out for the top 5 here.
Yeah, I mean, when you... No, and that's Kato-Matic round! I think he's just about managed to avoid the wall, but that's dropped him right out of contention. And when it was looking like he was bound to get a podium there, on the net CRS straight. He just couldn't get the power down. It is now back out of the points. And now it's just up to the 2 Racing Points and the other McLaren to fight for it. And Kato just keeps spinning on those overheated tyres. The rears are at 120 degrees right now. And that's a nightmare for Kato-matic.
Kato was just so eager to chase down Silver Arrow. He had no patience to wait for the next start-finish line.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just so tough when you know that your car is so much faster, but you can't find that gap. But Kato just wasn't able to keep control of the car, and it cost him dearly.
So just a little bit too ambitious on the throttle there, coming out of that sweeping right-hander and just unhooked the back end there. Always tough to really ride the edge of that traction. You love to hear Martin Brundle always say, ambition ahead of adhesion. And that cost him a chance at the podium, I'd say here.
Exactly. I mean, we've seen time and again how much Kato-matic can push and extend a gap, but the downside of that is that when you pushing, you can make mistakes, and in that case it has happened, and now it's looking very unlikely it's going to score a points finish here.
And we've still got a battle up at the front for the lead of this race, only within a couple of tenths between Silver Arrow and Fraser.
Yeah, your eyes are not deceiving you. This is a soft compound clad McLaren being manhandled by Dodge, quite frankly, and MJ has actually moved up into P4 off that. But yeah, where Kato was not able to succeed, Neuro tried, but Dodd closing the door on turn 1 there. Now it's MJ's turn to try and make it past this Racing Point, who is running way off the pace of the cars ahead, and it seems the cars behind with this defending that has to be done. A little bit of bump drafting around this corner. Once again, Dodd is just struggling so much, but he's managing to defend this position somehow.
He's holding onto that podium. He's not willing to give it away. Not to Kato, not to MJ, and not to Neuro as well.
You can see MJ try to take an alternative line here, get a bit of a run on Dodd. He will have DRS, and that may be a little bit too much for Dodd to fight. He has a clear inside line here coming through Tarzan. Of course, Dodd will try and defend it around the outside, but actually Neuro may have a look. He had a look down the inside, but couldn't make it happen. And Dodd falls to P4. MJ from the Edcroft division now on the podium.
Yeah, he's shown very good pace throughout this race, even rebounding from that early pit stop with wing damage, trying to avoid contact with like $100, what eventually took Weltering out of the race there. But we'll have to see what the stewards have to say about the reset to track he did earlier.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. Was that MJ that did that, or was that Weltering?
That was MJ that got there, and that's how...
and Dodd's gone around! Dodd's touched the curb going onto that straight. Managed to keep hold of the car, but has lost 2 positions, 3 positions by the look of things. Is trying to defend on VTech and might actually pull it off. But that has handed P4 to Neuro, and now Dodd, who was already struggling to keep the pace with the cars behind, is just falling down the order.
I think that early defense he had coming out of the safety car period, he really took a lot of life out of his tires as Fraser going by Silver Arrows.
Those two are battling side by side. I think Silver Arrow made a move on the start-finish straight, but Fraser was defending all the way through that first sector and has managed to hold on. But do not adjust your sets, because there is a battle for the lead here, and it may go to the end of this race.
And we had so many overtakes as well. SkyTube past Neuro, VTech Panda past Dog. So much action on the track right now.
I know. But of course, Neuro does have the soft top on tires, so maybe trying to fight back. But they are 8 laps old now, so they may have seen their best, and the hards might have a little bit more fight left in them.
Timolele taking a dive up the inside of Dog there as he's continuing to fall down the order. Now under attack by Nordy in the Haas there, who's on the medium compounded tires. And it looks like Nordy's going to get that job done.
No,
Might-
Nordy has
Ooh,
actually gone deep into the gravel there and wasn't able to make the move stick. Not sure what happened. Meanwhile, on the top right, we see Silvero again try to go around the outside of Fraser. Fraser holding the inside line, and they're side by side once again. This time, Silver Arrow manages to hold it going into turn 4 and hold on to the lead. And that is a change of position.
And
Now
great
we'll
exit. Great exit by Silver Arrow coming out of Tarzan.
Absolutely. Now, will Silver Arrow be able to check out of this, or will Fraser latch onto the back of this car? You can see the gap is just 2 tenths, and so he may be looking to make the move back again, and they may be trading positions between now and the end of this race.
It may be a time where the car sitting in second place starts to check the lap count and see when they want to make that final move. If they do it a lap too early, they might give the position back up if they're just going to be swapping. Almost like racing in the Indy 500, where you're really trying to set up that final slingshot on the last lap to take the win. Being in the lead might not be the best position coming into the last couple of laps of this race.
Cumulus, this isn't Baku, this isn't Hanoi, this is Zandvoort, one of the most difficult tracks to overtake on. And so it's very difficult to imagine that a car will want to be behind at any point in these final stages. And you can see Fraser isn't quite close enough to make the DRS count there, so it's no guarantee that you'll make the move stick.
Oh, absolutely not. But the thought may creep in if they just keep swapping it back and forth. But being in the lead is always nice to have.
Yeah, it's definitely something for the driver in second place to have in the back of their mind to reassure them that they do have a chance in this race.
Absolutely. And the traction zones are so tough in that final sector. All it takes is one little wiggle to set up a really big run down that final straight. So
Meanwhile, Neuro's right on the gearbox of Skytube here. Those soft compound tires still doing work. But it's right on the back of him through that first sector where there's nowhere to make a move. We'll see if he can do it on the back straight, but again, it's just not quite long enough, and so he might be being patient, having to wait for start-finish straight once again. But we're on lap 33. There's only so many times to use that straight to make a move.
Absolutely. Yeah. And seeing the launch that SkyTube got out of that last part of Sector 2 compared to Neuro, it might be that those soft tires are really starting to lose their traction. Although Fraser's got a run on Silver Arrows now, looking around the outside there, trying to hold off around the outside through turn 1, but looks like Silver Arrow gets the power down just a little bit better and holds him off one more time.
Absolutely. What a fantastic battle we're seeing for the lead of this Dutch Grand Prix. Further behind, we have a similar battle between SkyTube and Euro for P4 in this race, and VTech and Timolele still in that fight, just a little bit further back. You could see them getting the mix before the end of this race.
And Fraser just pulled off the same trick Silver Arrow used against him 2 laps ago, but didn't make it work.
Ah, absolutely. We're on lap 34 of 36 right now. That means that we were going to have 2 full runs down the start-finish straight. And then the third time round, it will be cut short at the start-finish line. So if Fraser wants to make the move, he has to make it soon.
And Timolele, he found his pace now in the last few laps. I don't know where he gets this magic Michael Schumacher aura from, but
Yeah,
he's chasing down VTech.
maybe it's warmed up on this track. I'm scared for tomorrow. Meanwhile, Fraser not quite close enough to make a move into turn 1. He's only got one more full chance into turn 1. As Neuro goes up the inside of SkyTube going into turn 1, makes the move stick, and that is P4. And Neuro is actually making a good gap to SkyTube there, and he's getting a bit gobbled up now by Timolele.
Yeah, it looked like taking the inside line for Neuro. He had to get a little bit more on the brakes to make that apex. And SkyTube gave a little tap to the back end, carrying a little more speed from the outside angle there. And that's what kind of unsettled the rear end of the car there and has now got VTech and Timolele right there in the battle.
Absolutely. As we see these cars come onto the back straight for the penultimate time. And this is what happened to Kate Matic earlier. No, sorry. And as we look back at the live action, you have Fraser starting the final lap just behind Silverado, right on his gearbox, but it's not enough to make the move. That is final chance to make move into Tarzan. He's got to make it as some other chance on this track. Maybe on the back straight, maybe just spotting a weakness anywhere, but they're counting down the corners one by one, and Silverado may be able to hold on to this. Fraser's not had much fight since he got overtaken earlier on.
Hopefully we won't see a second John Lemon here by Fraser.
I mean, I think Fraser's definitely knows where he is. He knows he's got P2 right now. And I don't think he wants to throw the 18 points away just to try and get a race win. He'll be satisfied with a podium. And as you can see, coming around those corners, there isn't a dive bomb there. He's very close. I think there's a little bit of contact there as Silva just parked it there. But it's going to sit back, and Silverado will cross the line here. Round in the final corner, this beautiful bad corner of Zandvoort. And Silverado takes the Dutch Grand Prix, Fraser right behind. MJ Povey will cross the line to take a provisional P3 that may fall in the steward's office, and Euro behind that takes P4 for the time being. VTEC Panda, Skytube and Timalele coming across the line later. Penachero gaining a place on penalties before Dog and Barney rounding out the top 10. K-Tomatic ended up finishing P11 just outside the points for our championship leader. That will help the rest of the field catch up a significant amount. As the final cars cross the line, what did you think of that race?
Well, once again, coming down to a mistake from Kato. He was cruising in the lead, then that late safety car came out, and he really had a very good run off the safety car, but a mistake costing him a chance at a podium there. But Silver Arrow and Fraser, a tremendous battle over the final stint of the race, back and forth, and Silver Arrow just doing enough to stay in front of Fraser and take the checkered flag there. But Povey did well to race his way back into the top three again. We'll see what the stewards have to say about that reset to track. But that also might have got the other McLaren of Neuro onto the podium, depending on what the penalty will be.
It may have done, and I mean, what a performance from Neuro if that is the case. Having that interesting strategy call, and I believe starting well outside the top 10 on those medium tyres. So
He did,
be able
yeah,
to
he
recover
started-
that to a podium is fantastic work from the McLaren.
He started P12 or P13, I guess. But
Wow.
to say, Kato, he's not happy with safety cars this season, I guess. It cost him the win in Canada as well, with a late safety car, and he spun out. Now again, he will be furious, I guess.
I think Div 3 has more to say about safety cars than Kato does. But he'll definitely feel frustrated by that. And as you see, the top two in that race started first and third on the grid respectively, but behind them, the next four cars were all cars that started well outside the top 10. And that's a fantastic showing from them to hold their nerve and make solid points out of that.
So, oh hey, who was driver of the day for you?
I think I have to... I'm going to have to go with Neuro, I think, for that one. It was definitely a risky strategy call to stay out on those tyres when everyone else pitted, but I think that's what gained him so many places on that safety car. And then the time on the second one let him get soft compound tyres on, leading that soft compound train at the back, and he managed to charge through the field to what could be a podium once all is said and done. Crumbulus?
Our race winner, Silver Arrow, he did qualify very well up in P3 on the grid there, but manages to keep himself out of trouble and then managed to battle very well with Fraser and get the job done in the final stages of the race and hold him off by a half a second.
Very fair choice. And Jock James, what do you think?
It's close between Neuro, maybe VTEC Panda. He did a great job. A little bit less screen time for him, but he started P15 and worked his way up. And he's AlphaTauri, so of course representing my team. So I'll go with VTEC Panda.
Well, three different choices there, just showing what a fantastic competitive race that was, and really demonstrating that Zandvoort it can give you action if you have the drivers for it.
Is that foreshadowing for tomorrow?
Possibly. Be sure to come back this time tomorrow because there will be a Div 3 race, and Div 3 always brings chaos. But I think for now, I think that may be it. Is there anything else anyone wants to say?
Yeah, as we're getting to the closing stages of the season, only a few races left to go in this season, but we will be getting set up for the next season not too far after. We usually have about a month or so of a break before the next season, but anybody watching that's looking to drive, we have field drivers for, obviously you've seen the PC divisions today, but also there's PS4 and Xbox divisions. If you go to the subreddit RF1 Racing League, check in, sign up there, and we'll be always looking to take on new drivers to grow this community. And as you can see, the streaming, I want to give a thanks to Mr. Tom Mack for the nice professional looking stream that we've got, and especially since we learned this week that the actual F1 Esports does all their graphics and post. Tom Mack is that much better.
The best live graphics in all of F1 Esports. You heard it here from Twimpulus. And with that, I think we shall say farewell from PC Division 1. What a fantastic showing they gave us. And I just have to thank Twimbulus and Jot James as our co-commentators, as well as Tom Mack and Cookie for helping set the stream up. Until next time, I'll see you later.